Ready?
Uh-huh.
Hi, this is Audrey Moran. I'm with Audrey's Book Corner. Today we are interviewing and talking with Holly Rivney. Holly Rivney has written a book called Paradox. It's a really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I read it and I wrote a review of it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And my my partner in crime, Lisa Fredrickson, is also with us. And so, first of all, where did you get the idea for Paradox, Holly?
Oh gosh. I had written some little short stories for some friends of mine, and they had asked, gosh, you write. Why didn't you write a book? I said, oh, long time ago I did, but they wanted me to write some sci-fi for them. So I was thinking about it, and I saw one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's shows on his, I don't remember which one of his shows it was. He's been on so many, but
Yeah,
he had mentioned about how things in physics and the universe are different, and if you had maybe gone to another planet, that maybe things would be reversed or different. And he said, boy, somebody should write a book about that. I'd love to read it. So I wrote it.
That's fun.
I haven't read it yet, but
looks like Audrey might be having some technical difficulty, but that's really cool. Who's your favorite character in Paradox, Holly?
Oh gosh. Well, it would be my protagonist, who's Captain Jackson. I'm closest to him. So
I wondered about that.
Yeah.
And did you fashion him after anybody in real life?
He's kind of a combination of several other fictional characters. Maybe he's a combination a little bit of maybe Indiana Jones and little Captain Kirk, maybe. But not quite as flirty as Kirk.
That would be good.
Yeah.
So what in the book is his greatest challenge, without revealing everything in there? I mean,
well,
sometimes we have flat arcs and sometimes we have
the crew has been basically alone for a couple of years, and he's been alone, but the crew has always treated him as the captain, and once they are isolated from anybody else, there's no more command structure, and so he has to reinvent basically how they're going to relate to each other and to himself. Always kind of kept to himself. He, always has been eats alone, and he's always done everything alone, and now he has to deal with people.
Oh, I can relate to that.
On a friendship basis, or on a, not as a captain with the crew, because we have a little problem with the ship early on, so no more ship.
Right.
So he doesn't know how he's going to complete the mission, and he resists he resists help from a native, but after a while he stops resisting.
That sounds very cool. So for a minute, I'm going to pop up the link to your book.
Okay.
And let the audience, and while we're letting them do that, is your book available anywhere else for your audience?
It is only available right now on Amazon and as an ebook, and on Smashwords as an ebook. It's also available as paperback on Amazon.
Okay. And I know you've written some fun novellas that work into this. What's your favorite on one of those novellas that work into the series? And this is called the Rising Destiny book series, correct?
Correct. Probably my favorite, which is more critical to the series, would be Gamma Ray Games. And Gamma Ray Games is, people have said, oh, it's sort of like one episode. And so I would agree with that. He's on a mission. He has to go find out why a nuclear tower showed up on a very, not remote, but a less industrialized civilization. And the things that he finds out are quite disturbing.
Uh-huh.
And he has to deal with those. He has to deal with several different species of aliens, and they're both aliens are trying to exploit the people on the planet. And he has a friend there who's a metallurgist, and they've had a fun relationship, but
Right.
things have changed. It's been 9 years, so it's a bit of a character study, but also we get to see another side where what's happening on this planet with the it's a thorium reactor, and
Uh-huh.
the reactor gets damaged, intentionally damaged, and there's a lot of a lot of tension in this one.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, how do you get your inspiration to continue, the new books in the series? You've got 3 books right now in the series?
I have 3 now, plus the novella, Gamma Ray Games, and then there's a prequel, The Serpents of My Imagination, which is available on the website.
Okay.
And it's only on the website. That's the only place it's available.
Oh, okay. So they have to go to your website.
Yeah,
And-
that would fall between those two, of course. It's
And
immediately preceding.
and where is your website? What is it called?
hsrivney.com.
HS Rivney. And I'm going to type that in here for everybody to see.
Okay.
And then, and that way they can go there. We're still having a little bit of technical difficulty with Audrey. I'm going to tell her to restart her computer, so she should be back in a minute.
Okay.
She may be having problems because I know that they were having storms out in Kansas area.
Oh my goodness.
And that was where they had the power outage
Oh,
way back,
God.
about probably 4 weeks ago or so.
Oh,
And
dear.
so I know that my other friends, because I have a great big network out in Kansas, has had problems with internet connection.
dear.
So,
Well,
but anyway,
out here we're just freezing.
so while we're waiting for Audrey, what inspired you to become an author other than people asking you to do this story? I mean, sometimes when you're young, you read a book and it inspires you and things like that. But have you always liked English and things?
Well, yeah, I think probably back early high school, I would write stories just to entertain myself, and my friends wanted to read them, and over the summer I would phone a friend and read to them over what I had written, and it just kind of snowballed. And I was thinking actually about going into I was thinking about being an English teacher when I was first getting out of high school, but my mother said I probably would hate that job. So I've done a lot of different things, but I've always tried to keep writing in there. When I was working for a veterinarian, I would write small features for newspapers, and I worked for Yamaha Corporation, Music Corporation, and I was the editor and chief contributor person of the corporate newsletter. And then after I left Yamaha, and I was working for an international company called Metier that did Oracle software implementations. And so I wrote a lot of white papers for them, and some.
So you've got quite the background to write these books.
Yeah,
don't you?
I just kept writing, and especially at Metier, I ended up contributing to the. It's got a long name. It's the Oracle Financial Application Consultants Exam Guide, because you can get certified in some of these things. And so I wrote a couple of those chapters that ended up getting published. The book's about that thick. So I did that. So I've been writing all along, even though I've had to earn a living another way.
Yeah, but you're on your way to being a career author. So
that's my plan. Yeah, we've the two books followed Paradox. That was Symbiosis, the Titans of Cassiopeia, and that was the focus of that one was antibiotic resistance. And the third one that I've finished is Jeopardy, and that one is about an asteroid destructive, as well as some alien abductions and
fun time travel, right?
well, there's time travel goes through the entire thread.
Oh, it does. Okay.
It actually starts in symbiosis, which is where the serial part of the series gets rolling really.
So for all those time traveling lovers that like time travel, it's woven into all 3 books.
Yes, and it's
There she is.
related to the characters. It's related to the bubonic plague of the Black Death.
I'm back.
And related to the future as well, with mining on the moon Enceladus, the little moon that goes inside the rings of Saturn, and what ends up with how that all connects is got one more book to go.
So Audrey, to catch you up while you were having some challenges, I just asked her about if she had wanted to be an author all her life. She's been writing all this time. We talked a little bit about her trilogy having some time travel in it, and back to you for questions. So
thank you. I hope you don't lose me again. It's very terrible to think you've been lost.
Oh, I'm lost.
Yes.
You're just time traveling.
I've got so many questions here. Do you set a plot, or do you prefer to just take a story and see where it goes?
I do a little bit of both. Right now I know where the story is going. It's just taking a long time to tell it. But
sometimes that happens.
But a lot of times I will set out a plot, but by the time I get to the end, it's often a little different. And then the details just kind of come while I'm writing it. And I'll get stuck on something and I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do next. So I'll skip that, move on to what I do know. And then sometimes I get a clue. Oh, I can go back and fix it this way. And then I just go back and finish. And so it helps keep the continuity. It keeps you going. But if you get stuck, you can just move forward, and then it's easy to go backwards. Hindsight is easier to write.
Right.
The end first or the middle first.
Have you ever had? I've read this question before, and I'm like, okay, well, but that's a really good, interesting question. Have you ever been has a character ever done something you weren't intending your character to do?
Yes, I've done that on purpose. One of the things that I think I like about writing is, I'm making a character somewhat predictable, and then I give them a situation where they've got to be themselves, or they can be someone else briefly, and so they can. I believe I had the captain do that twice in Paradox, and I've had people say, "Wow, I wasn't expecting." So I like to just shake it up a little bit if I can. Do something unexpected. Maybe there's some consequences. Maybe it gives them a new thing they have to deal with. And sometimes it gives me an idea too. It's like, oh, I just gave them a new problem.
Yeah, right.
And threw rocks at them,
Yeah. I liked where you took Captain Jackson and the crew down to that planet, and I wasn't expecting some of what happened, to say the least.
That's good.
But it was a wonderful surprise.
Yes, it was. And I'm almost tempted to go read the next one.
Right now.
But if I've got too many other books right now. I've got to get out of the way before I can go back and read.
Yeah. Right. What she's saying is she has this long list of people that have asked her to review her book, and so she's
absolutely.
tempted to take Symbiosis out of
order.
And put the rest of them aside for a minute. So if all these people are complaining, Yeah. So if all these people are complaining, it's all your fault, Holly, because you,
Okay.
your
All right, folks.
I love to read. I always have, because to me, and I don't understand people that don't like to read. I just don't get it.
I don't either.
Because to me, a book is a ticket to somewhere completely different where you can just run away and hide for a while.
Oh yeah.
Well, and on behalf of those non-reader type, sometimes some of us, and this would be me included in the area, is that reading's a little harder. You know, like I have dyslexia, so, and it wasn't diagnosed when I was younger. It was harder to read. So I started reading encyclopedias before I started reading stories. It really wasn't until I had a wonderful teacher who introduced me to reading and kind of pushed me past. And I read the A Mouse in Times Squares, that classic. But I read it rather late in my years of school. So even though, I mean, it's wonderful that everybody can enjoy reading, sometimes I encourage people to just pick up a book and start delving into it anyway. And it's a journey in the mind. And I became instantly hooked when I started reading things and being able to go somewhere else.
And that's
Yeah.
what I try to do is I try to make it engaging so that you can block out your regular life and you can go on this science fictional journey. And I do kind of make it a little heavy on the science, I think. But
Yeah, but that's interesting though, because you're teaching people something that in a way that they may not understand otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. Is I like to bring, maybe that's Star Trek lover in me, is that I like to bring current events to a more public. What can I say? There's not that much of a public thing going on with chirality of molecules, but there is with the splicing of genes and that kind of thing. So with paradox.
Right.
And then when I move into symbiosis, the problem is the underlying scientific problem is antibiotic resistance, which is such a serious problem, but nobody really understands. And the next one, off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember what the problem is. But I'm in the middle of writing another one, so going back to think about it is like, I'm just gonna confuse myself if I start talking about the last book. And
I was gonna say, do you ever get your literally stories crossed? And
oh yeah,
really,
I've done that where, I try to stick with one at a time, but there's times when I'll go back to something and I'll need to reference a prior work so that I don't mess it up in the next one. So actually on my Kindle, I have the gamma ray games actually up on my Kindle while I'm working on my current one, which is Chameleon. And it kind of revisits a lot of the issues that happened in the gamma ray games. And so it's starting to come around the far, they're coming around the far turn here. So I have to come back somehow.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
I've crossed the stories up once or twice. I'm like, oh, that didn't happen yet. Okay.
So I was wondering, who's your favorite author of all time?
Oh gosh. I would probably put it at Isaac Asimov.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Really? I like his work. I like Heinlein. And
Heinlein's really good.
Yeah.
Him I haven't read, but I liked Ray Bradbury in high school.
Oh. Mm-hmm. I think his work is a little bit easier to enjoy or understand because it's not as it's not as far out as Heinlein. Heinlein is more, he's the stranger in a strange land kind of guy who invented I broke that and I'm just an egg, So some of those are old references, but us older folks would know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah, I'm an eclectic reader because my father liked Westerns and science fiction.
Mm.
And my mother liked, when I was a kid, it seemed like she read mostly mysteries
Mm-hmm.
and romance a little. But one day, this was 10 years ago or less. It's been the last 10 years. I was over at my parents, and I don't know whether I pulled the book out of Mother's purse or whether Mother pulled it out, but it was a Western, and fairly thick Western, and I'm like, huh? I thought maybe she was carrying it for Dad or something. Nope, that was one she was reading. I said, since when do you read Westerns? She goes, I've always read Westerns. I said, news to me.
A little Louis L'Amour there.
Yeah, it's like, huh?
So for Audrey's viewers, how can they join your newsletter if they'd like to follow what you're doing? Do they go to your website or do they go to Facebook? Holly?
For me? Oh, for me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Audrey. I'm sorry. The newsletter, go run on over to the website, hsrivney.com. Pretty easy. And you know what? I'll give you a hint too. There are no other Rivneys in the
world.
entire Amazon catalog. So if you just type in Rivney, you'll get all of my stuff come up.
Yeah.
I'm the only one, which is a good thing, I think. So over at the website, there's an infrequent blog going on, but there is a summary of all the books and links to all the books where you can buy them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't send out a newsletter very often, but I try. I'm usually writing a book. But I try to, a lot of times in my letters, I have interesting science stories going on. And so if I hear something that's particularly interesting, a lot of times I will put that out on the Stratosphere, which is the page on Facebook. And then that kind of gets, hidden. For some reason, Facebook doesn't want to do anything with it. Actually,
if they follow you and ask for notifications up in their little settings, and I see almost all your posts, and I enjoy of course, I'm a science geek, but I enjoy the different posts that she brings forward. So,
well, that's good. You have to be a science geek to kind of like my work because there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of it's medical science. I guess really in Jeopardy, it was more physical science. It was more about the climate change that's going to happen on a planet when an asteroid is about to hit it, and they're trying to destroy the asteroid, but of course there's a lot of things in their way, but they make some progress with it, but there's still going to be climate change. And so that was kind of a little slip in there that I was doing about the climate change we have going on these days out here.
That's awesome.
In our own little world.
Yeah, I remember the post you did on the space elevator. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that is interesting, isn't it? Yeah. There's a lot of things, and
Audrey, it was
something, and I'm like, oh darn, I can't make that fiction anymore.
Yeah, but it was about they were building an elevator up into space. Evidently, I guess the Chinese are supposedly have it on of course, they've had several projects on the table that never showed up. But anyway, well, Audrey, we're closing in about 25 minutes. Do you have one more question for her?
Hold on.
There, I'm gonna.
Hello.
There we go.
So, well, I think we'll probably close that while she's on the phone with everybody. And anything that you'd like to let listeners know about? Oh, wait a minute. She's back. Here she goes.
Oh, okay. Nothing specific. I'm trying to put out a couple of books a year. So, but it does take time because there is a lot of research involved. And just keep your ear to the ground, and I will keep putting them out. I love to write, and I love to educate and entertain at the same time.
That's awesome.
That's the best way to educate, is to entertain. because then it's almost like you don't know you're being taught anything because it's fun.
Well, you hope so anyway. I mean, some of the things I found out, just writing Paradox was all about, well, in the underlying theme is these chiral molecules, and thalidomide was a chiral molecule. And only when they manufactured it in the wrong direction did it cause birth defects.
Wow.
When they manufactured it in the right direction, it didn't, which is part of the reason. It was very fascinating getting into the research. And so that's the only thing that really slows me down putting out another book.
Yeah, I bet. And just before we go, I'm going to pop her author page on Amazon up one more time.
Oh, thank you.
And you guys can continue to talk, but it's just there so that everybody can find your books.
There they are.
I had no idea that the direction a drug is made affects how it affects you.
Well, it was a surprise. They've known about the chirality of molecules for a long time, but thalidomide was originally made as an antidote for sarin gas. And of course, they wanted to find something else to do with it. And because it had relieved nausea, they were giving it to the pregnant women, in Germany or early 50s.
Yeah, it was Germany. It was Europe. Yeah.
And what happened is there was no quality control, and they started having it just made. They were making it, and they were not paying attention to which way these molecules were hooking up. And the ones that hooked up in the wrong direction, that happened to be ones, because a lot of people took thalidomide, but not everybody had birth defects with it. And they figured out that it was the low quality production that wasn't watching the direction of the medication molecular structure.
Who knew?
Isn't that amazing? It's amazing to me and so now of course they only make it the other way, and they use it for leprosy. But it's an amazing
fascinating
journey, and it just those kind of things inspire me to keep on writing, keep on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Do keep writing. Okay, yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. I had no idea. Oh, our time is gone, and we've appreciated having you with us so much, Holly.
Thank you for having me here.
It's been fun, and even though I kept popping in and out, I apologize. It's not my fault.
Well, in 100 years, we'll have that fixed. So we'll get right about it.
I look forward to getting to know you better, and thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.